Dr. Edi Fazil Haji Abdan, Ministry of Education, Brunei Darussalam, and Dr. Muhammad Anwar Abdullah, Special Education Division, Ministry of Education, Malaysia, as our plenary speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 6th International Conference on Special Education 2025 with the theme Technology for Disabilities, a Path to Inclusion. And thank you for joining us in this prestigious session. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to invite Madam Jamila Kadir, the Director of CHIA, to deliver the official welcoming speech. With all due respect, the floor is yours.
The Honorable Dr. Habibah Ibrahim, Director of Senior Secretariat, Emeritus Professor Charles Hu, University of Oxford, Madam Neng Hwala, Ministry of Education, Youth and Sport, Cambodia, Dr. Edi Fazil Haji Amdan, Ministry of Education, Brunei Darussalam, Dr. Muhammad Anwar bin Abdullah, Special Education Division, Ministry of Education, Malaysia. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, speakers, judges, partners and friends. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good morning. Welcome, Maligayang Padating, Sawasdi Chom Ripsol, Sabay Riming Minggala Bashi, Selamat Datang. It is my distinct honor and privilege to welcome all of you to the 6th International Conference on Special Education, or better known as ICSE, and also the second Innovation for Disability Inclusive Education Competition, IDEC 2025. On behalf of CHIA, I extend our warmest greetings to our esteemed guests, partners, speakers, judges, presenters, and also innovators, and not forgetting all the participants from across the Southeast Asian region and beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, today marks a significant milestone in our collective journey towards creating a more inclusive and equitable education landscape. These twin events, ICSE and IDEC, serve not only as platforms for meaningful intellectual exchange, but also as opportunities to celebrate innovation, resilience, and collaboration in advancing disability-inclusive education. This year, we are proud to host 312 attendees representing 20 countries including Malaysia, Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, India, Japan, Maldives, South Korea, United Kingdom, Nepal, Australia, Hong Kong, Timor-Leste, Bhutan, and Ethiopia. We extend our heartfelt appreciation for your presence here today, which, ladies and gentlemen, truly reflects the growing global commitment to building an inclusive, equitable, and sustainable education system. This year's theme, Technology for Disabilities, a Path to Inclusion, invites us to rethink how we design, how we deliver, and how we democratize education through inclusive innovation. It calls upon us to explore how technology, ladies and gentlemen, when applied with empathy and purpose, can break barriers and build bridges for learners of all abilities. Ladies and gentlemen, to frame our discussions over the next 2 days, allow me to reflect on what technology means within the context of this conference. Each letter, ladies and gentlemen, represents a principle that can guide us on this path. Technology provides tools such as screen readers, communication, applications, and AI-powered translators that empowers learners with disabilities to assess and also participate equally in learning and society. Ladies and gentlemen, inclusion is not just about equality, but it is about equity. This is where technology helps bridge the digital gaps and ensure that all learners, regardless of circumstance, have an equal chance to succeed. Technology builds connection, ladies and gentlemen, across communities, across countries, and across cultures. It fosters collaboration and reduces isolation, especially for those in marginalized and underrepresented groups. And in its core, inclusion is all about humanity. This is where empathy, dignity, and respect must guide the way we design and use technology. Inclusive technology, ladies and gentlemen, helps individuals navigate complex systems, education, health, employment, and by simplifying the resources, the processes, and also removing obstacles. And technology, ladies and gentlemen, gives opportunities. It opens opportunities for learning environment, learning, employment, creativity, and also empowerment, particularly for those who have historically been left behind. Inclusive technologies also support learning in diverse forms, enabling personalized, adaptive, and lifelong education for all. And through outreach, technology extends support to rural, remote, and vulnerable communities, ensuring that no child or no learners is left behind. And with technology, we get access and support, which includes technology. This is where it fosters growth for individual families and also society.
Well-being development of Sarawak, together with all our honored guests. And also, ladies and gentlemen, you are kindly requested to remain standing for the singing of the national anthem Negaraku, followed by the anthem of Sarawak, Ibu Pertiwiku, and also Simeon Colors.
much, ladies and gentlemen. Please remain standing. And a big round of applause to CHΙT. What a truly meaningful and moving performance by our wonderful children from CHIT, conducted by Madam Rebecca Buas. No words were spoken. Their hands, gestures, and expressions spoke volumes. Up next, we invite you to enjoy a musical performance that celebrates the vibrant unity and shared vision of Southeast Asia, the CHIA Color Song.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the CHIA songs, and may we kindly request.
I'm hoping that this session begins our collaboration between our team in Oxford and the UK and CHIA to improve children's language skills in many Southeast Asian countries, with a particular focus on children who may struggle with these skills. Hello. So, I'm going to begin with a summary of the points I want to make in this talk. I want to persuade you that early language skills form the foundation for the whole of formal education. I'm going to talk to you about a new model of reading development we've recently published called the Reading as Language Model. In that model, early language skills provide the foundation for the development of both decoding or reading aloud and reading comprehension. I'm going to show you data that language skills can be accurately assessed quite easily in school, that language skills can be effectively taught in both preschool and school. I'll show you data from the UK, but I think the same applies in many other parts of the world, that language difficulties are strongly associated with social disadvantage. And I'll show you data that language intervention can improve not only language, but reading and other educational skills. And I believe more broadly that language interventions in school are one way in which we can work to reduce social inequalities in educational outcomes and lifelong well-being. So, why are language skills so important for education?
The first thing to say is that language is the medium of instruction. What's happening here now, I'm speaking, you're listening, you're understanding what I'm saying, I'm transferring knowledge from my mind into your minds. That's what is fundamental to education. Literacy, reading and writing, build on a foundation in oral language. Without language, there would be no literacy skills. Literacy is simply the systems around the representation of language in the visual medium. Much less well recognised, numeracy, arithmetic, is heavily dependent on language skills. One of the foundations of numeracy is learning to count, and counting is fundamentally a verbal skill. Language is also very important for children's social and emotional development. Children need to be able to communicate, to make friends, to join in activities, and to express their feelings. Children with language difficulties are at great risk of having a range of social and emotional problems too. And finally, language is involved in behaviour regulation. Inner speech, I think, is important for self-regulation. Many of us talk to ourselves to encourage ourselves when things are difficult. We may talk to ourselves to calm ourselves down when things are frustrating. So, those are a few brief remarks about why I believe language skills are so important for education. However, it's true that until recently, school teachers and other people involved in education have not been trained about the nature of language and certainly haven't been provided with the tools they need in order to assess language skills. And that's why we developed a screening measure called Language Screen. So, Language Screen is an automated app that runs on a tablet or phone or computer. To use this app, schools create an account with us on our secure website and enter the details of the children that the school wants to assess. After that, it's very simple by scanning a QR code to assess a child's language skills with Language Screen. So Language Screen assesses a child's speaking and listening abilities. All data from the app are automatically uploaded and stored, and a web-based report is generated. Language Screen uses 4 separate subtests that together provide a highly accurate and reliable assessment of a child's language skills. Those 4 subtests are expressive vocabulary, that's naming pictures, receptive vocabulary, that's matching a spoken word to one of 4 visually presented pictures. A measure called listening comprehension, where the child hears a series of short stories and has to answer questions about them. And a measure called sentence repetition, where the child has to listen to and repeat sentences that become progressively longer and more complicated. This is a measure that's now been used with, I don't know, maybe 1 million children worldwide, and has been standardised for children between the ages of 3.5 and 12 years of age in the UK. Here are data representing what's referred to as a violin plot from a very large sample of children in the UK. This graph shows the increases in language scores as children go from the age of 3.5 years upwards in 6-month age bands. What you can see in this graph is that there's a rather steep increase in children's language skills between the ages of 3.5 and 5 years, and then more gradual increases in language between 5 years and 8 or 9 years. Importantly, however, what you can also see in this graph are these so-called long tails of many children whose language skills are failing to develop in line with their age. And it's these children in these tails that we're particularly concerned with. These are children who are having difficulty developing language skills adequately. Language Screen then generates a report for the school that lists all the children that have been assessed, gives standard scores and percentile ranks, and also we use a traffic light system, green meaning that children's language skills are not of concern, amber meaning that the child's language skills are of some concern, and red indicating that children's language skills are of very clear concern. As I said, language problems are strongly associated with social disadvantage. This is a graph, again, from data we've collected in the UK. This graph shows the relationship between Language Screen standard schools and the percentage of children in a school who are in receipt of free school meals. Now, in the UK, to be given free school meals in school, you have to come from a very poor family, typically a single-parent family where your mother is not working. What this graph shows is a very, very strong relationship between the proportion of children in each school that are in receipt of free school meals and the standard scores on Language Screen. The difference between the most advantaged schools, that's number 1, and the most disadvantaged schools, that's number 10, is somewhere between 11 and 12 standard score points difference. That's statistical terms, over 2/3 of the standard deviation difference between children in the most advantaged schools and children in the least advantaged schools. These are very, very strong effects. We knew that these sorts of effects existed, but the strength of these effects is much larger than I expect them to be. We've also developed an equivalent app that uses the same platform called Reading Screen, which allows schools to quickly assess children's word reading and non-word reading abilities. Again, this is a test that's quick and easy to administer. It's automated like Language Screen is, and generates, again, highly accurate and reliable assessments of children's word and non-word reading ability. Oh, sorry, I'm having some problem with moving my slides. That's it. If a school uses both of these measures, it allows them to get reports that place children into the 4 quadrants of the simple view of reading model. According to the simple view of reading, there are 2 dimensions of reading: decoding on the horizontal axis here, and language comprehension on the vertical axis. According to this model, then, we can classify children as falling into one of 4 quadrants. Children in the top right-hand corner of this model are considered to be normal readers. They read aloud with accuracy and they understand what they're reading adequately. Children on the top left-hand quadrant would be classically defined dyslexic children. These children have difficulties decoding print, but their comprehension is adequate in relation to their level of decoding ability. Children in the bottom right-hand quadrant are referred to as poor comprehenders. These children are much less widely recognised in schools than children with dyslexia. These children can decode print adequately, but have great trouble understanding what they're reading. And finally, children in the bottom left-hand quadrant have both decoding and reading comprehension problems. They arguably are the children who have the greatest educational difficulties. But as you can see, by using language screen and reading screen, a school gets a report shown here on the bottom right-hand corner of this slide, where the different children are placed into these different quadrants. Children marked in green are of no concern. Their decoding and reading accuracy is adequate. The two children represented by the red and amber symbols in the top left-hand corner are children who are having problems with decoding, but not with language. They're dyslexic or at risk of dyslexia. The two children in the bottom right-hand corner both have adequate decoding, but have severe language comprehension problems, so they have reading comprehension impairment. And finally, the two children in red and one child in amber in the bottom left-hand corner have both decoding and reading comprehension problems. So the use of this sort of reporting matrix leads quite directly to allowing schools to identify the forms of remedial teaching that would benefit these children. The children in the top left-hand quadrant, the dyslexic children, need help with decoding. The children in the bottom right-hand segment who have language comprehension problems need a language intervention. They need to work on their language comprehension. And the children in the bottom left-hand quadrant need both of those sorts of help equally. I'm going to go on now to talk to you about a very large-scale study that we carried out in the UK. This is, I believe, the largest study of children at family risk of dyslexia ever conducted. So what we did in this study was select children at family risk of dyslexia, that is, recruit children who had a first-degree relative, one of their parents was dyslexic. We also recruited a large sample of children who in preschool were diagnosed as having language difficulties or developmental language disorder. And finally, we recruited control children from families where there was no family history of dyslexia, and these children weren't having language problems. The study started when these children were just 3.5 years of age. That's very important because we're starting this study before children have entered formal school and certainly well before they were learning to read. So that's a very important aspect of this study. Don't run from the room. Here's a rather complicated diagram. It's called the structural equation model of the data from this study. Let me walk through this diagram slowly and try to explain it as clearly as I can. What you can see on the left-hand side of this diagram at the age of 3.5 is that we used a very large range of measures to assess the overall level of language ability. When the children were just 3.5 years old. The second point at which all these children were assessed, they were 4.5 to 5 years old, and they'd just really started school in the UK, so they were just starting to learn to read. And at that point, we measured their phoneme awareness, that's their ability to identify phonemes in spoken words, their grapheme phoneme or letter sound knowledge, GPCs, and their rapid naming ability, their ability to name rapidly objects and colours. Thank you. That's really helpful. So here we have how well you can identify phonemes in spoken words, how many letter sounds that you know, and your ability to name objects. Now, what you can see is that language ability here is strongly related to those three constructs measured a year later. That was a new finding, not at all an obvious finding. These three constructs here really form the foundation for learning to read aloud in an alphabetic orthography such as English or Malay. And what we can see is that those constructs in turn, particularly phoneme awareness and letter knowledge, are powerful predictors of children's ability to read aloud a year after a year in school. And finally, in this study, we measured children's reading comprehension ability, their ability to read and understand stories when they were 8, when they'd been in school for just over 3 years. And what you can see is that their ability to read words aloud was a powerful predictor of their reading comprehension, but so too was their level of language ability measured 5 years earlier. That's quite a striking result. So how well you can use language as assessed by a measure like Language Screen well before you've entered school determines how well you're going to learn to read words and how well you're going to be able to understand what you're reading much later in school. So these data are very much in line with the simple view of reading. That reading comprehension depends on language comprehension as well as decoding skills. However, these data also lead us to change the simple view of reading in the sense that in the simple view of reading, language and speech sound or phonology skills are seen as independent, but actually the data I've just shown you show that both of those sets of skills depend upon earlier language skills before children have entered schools. So preschool language difficulties are a strong predictor of later difficulties learning to decode print, as well as later language problems. And in this view, early language development provides the foundation for both decoding and comprehension. So this has led us to publish a new model of reading development. And this model is referred to as the Reading is Language model. And it's just been published in the Annual Review of Developmental Psychology a small number of weeks ago. And this is what I refer to as a causal development model, a causal development model of reading development. So what you can see in this model is that we postulate that language, very early before children are in school, forms the foundation for two separate streams of development. The top stream here is to do with the development of word reading. So in this model, how well you learn to read words depends first of all on whether you can develop what we call alphabetical code skills, though that's principally learning letter sound relationships and learning to identify phonemes and spoken words, lead to the development of word reading and lead to the development of reading fluency. And word reading and reading fluency are both powerful predictors of reading comprehension. But early language skills also affect reading comprehension via a second route that's to do with language comprehension. So this embodies the idea in the simple view of reading that there are these two dimensions affecting the development of reading comprehension. But it brings them together and says that both of those things are causally dependent on variations in children's early language skills. Another way I like to talk about this model is in terms of a series of waves of development. According to the model, to begin with, first of all, we need language to develop. Based on the development of language, the child can begin to develop alphabetic or code skills. Based on the development of those skills, a child can begin to develop word reading skills. And finally, based on those earlier waves, we get to develop reading comprehension. Now, these waves are not supposed to indicate that things come up and then disappear. Rather, it's trying to show that there are different periods when different skills are developing most rapidly. But a colleague of mine in the US, when I showed her this model, said, well, what you should say is that language is the ocean where each wave of literacy development occurs, and I think that's a very good way of saying it. Everything depends upon language. Language is the foundation of the whole of literacy, but these different phases build upon earlier language skills. Now, in many parts of the world, children struggle with the development of reading comprehension. Here are some recent data from the US showing changes in the National Assessment of Educational Abilities across different years. And what the graph is showing is changes in levels of reading comprehension across time. And what the graph shows, rather worryingly, is that between 2019 and 2024, there are decreases in reading comprehension ability in a very huge sample of children in the US. Many other parts of the world, we know reading comprehension problems arise in schools. According to the model I've just shown you, interventions to improve oral language skills earlier in children's life will help to reduce these problems with reading comprehension. And I'll show you some data that supports that claim in a few minutes. So, let me talk to you about one of the language interventions that we have developed. and implemented in the UK and many other parts of the world now. This language intervention is called the Nothing Language Intervention Programme. It's a 20-week programme delivered typically in the first year or so of a child's life in school. And there are three main components of the programme: work on vocabulary knowledge, teaching children the meanings of words, work on listening skills, getting children to listen to stories and talk about them, and finally work on narrative skills. That's particularly using picture prompts, getting children to describe what they can see in pictures and giving them structured feedback on what they say when producing these narratives. This is a programme we've worked to develop over almost 20 years now. It's pretty unique in the sense that it's been through a whole sequence of randomised controlled trials. As was mentioned in the introduction, I'm considered to be an expert in randomised controlled trials in education. Randomised controlled trials is an
Hello. Today on behalf of the center, I will present our research to application of corresponding response therapy based on OT in supporting children with autism. This problem statement we focus on sensory processing disorder field. So you can see the difference from the normal kid with the autism kid. Normal kid can running, cleaning, singing, dancing, and learning normally because of very effective processing of sensory. But something is hard for the autism kid. In the world, have a lot of methods to treatment like OT, music therapy, balabis. In our center, we also use it, but we include the method like Magostova, sensory motor integration from US and Vietnam corresponding response therapy. So, what's the meaning of Vietnamese corresponding response therapy? It's our acupressure trainer. So you can imagine very simple. Someone who had like, I think someone can put oil in hand and massage for the head because of pain. But with our corresponding therapy, we find a different point in the part of the body that we touch and massage, and the head will reduce the pain. So we think that VCRT can combination with OT. Why not? Because VCRT we can make the exercise VCRT if follow the theory of OT. So it's history of OT. It's history of VCRT. The man is master recruitment who development VCRT methods. So as you can see the 5 theoretical versions of OT. VCRT can focus in the number 5, theory of function and defunction. And on the theory of function and defunction, VCRT can focus on the biomechanical framework, focus on musculoskeletal rehabilitation like change, then motion, endurance, to improve the ability to perform the activity. And the third is sensory processing intervention framework. So we can see the learning time in, sensory system is very important to the kid because it's the foundation for the development of higher skill like learning, talk, copy, everything right. So VCRT can treatment the proprioception, tactile, vestibular, interoception, auditory, visual, olfactory also. It's founded by method from Professor Dr. Bukucho. Is a method in diagnosing health, correction, and treating disease through the skin by stimulating different points and corresponding area related to affected body part. So CHİT is a second party system of correspondence for diagram of Vietnamese facial reflexology. So it's very safe method because it's a treatment method that does not involve the use of medication, acupuncture needle, or medical device. So when the body is affected by illness, it naturally produces internal substance through the endocrine system that functions as medicine to support health, self-healing. This medicine hit the corresponding point in the body, just like when if we have we should be touching another point of the body. So finally use the body out to like finger, palm, and elbow to as an instrument to treat illness by stimulating different points. I think it's so CHİT has to develop a healthy body with strength and enhance the body with self-healing and self-regulation ability. CHİT can be combined with OT as a foundation therapy for intervention, addressing sensory processing disorder and sensory integration dysfunction in children. You should be know what does it mean of corresponding. I give you the example like the first time. Corresponding is things that have similar property or form are interconnected and respond to one another. So if you want to know CHİT, when the body you get not feeling well, not feel stressed, it should be find a different point, and you should be kind of stimulate any different point, and the body will heal itself. So how to find the different point in CHİT? You can use it very simple like this. The first thing is similarity in shape. You can find something shape in the body, right? Maybe air, air, hearing. The same shape with the kidney. You know kidney? Yeah. Kidney, the top. So when you have free time, you should be that in air. It can impact for the kidney. It's very good for you, okay? And the second one is similarity in nature. You can know left hand and right hand is the same function. So if you pain in the left hand, you can find the different point in the right hand. So first and point is hard for you because it's we know Vietnamese language. In development by Vietnamese language, I can give you example. You can imagine the same sound, same name. In Vietnamese language, it means he knows, he sống mũi, and the spin is sống lưng, the same sound sống. So when you feel pain in back, you can touch massage something in the nose. Very good impact. So the last one is the similarity in texture. You can see it hard or soft. Maybe you can imagine here is a head, the same like head. It hard is the same like head, very hard. It's soft, the same like stomach, very soft. So you can tap here. Now you can do it well for the stomach. Okay. Next one. The procedure is simple. We need a second first, so we make a IEP. So we put in CHİT in our plan. So after 3 months, we have assessment again. It made by the expert in CHİT. So CHİT is very simple. It's simple for our center. Can do because you have 1,400 students and 300 teachers. So we need them to know very simple. That's why it expresses the physical stimulation. We use palm and elbow and finger to touch them, and we can use the heat stimulation. You can see. So heat stimulation, our children very like this technique because when they come to our center, they automatically lay down and waiting for the therapy to do like it for them. So if they feel really like, because when we do that, we can have tactile sensor attached, and vestibular and proprioception, and you make a good impact for the central nervous system, you can imagine when you need to sleep well, right? You should be put the leg inside the warm water and feel distressed. That's why the stimulation is very good for students. And we have the physical stimulation general, so our teacher can learn that easily. They can do it every day in school. It's very safe, totally very safe. So we also have the physical stimulation for advanced for supporting vestibular, tactile, perception, vision, hearing test, like vestibular, like perception, and tactile, and like visual, and like hearing disorder. Okay, so this is some our success case, like he got found in cerebral and also autism. After he can work, so now he can work by himself. Very good, you know. You can see the children have problem with the visor, you know, it's in the eyes. Okay. Now it's very good. Now she able to work, you know, able to work. Last time can work. Also, you can see the just the blood cannot flow. That's why he can have problem like this. So now it's okay. He can do some final skill. Okay. So it's our method. So thank you for attention. Today I will, on behalf of the center, I will present our research to application of corresponding response therapies by OT in support teacher with autism. This problem statement we focus on sensory processing disorder field. So you can see the difference from the normal kid with the autism kid. Normal kid can running, cleaning, singing, dancing, and learning normally because the very effective processing of sensory. But something is hard for the autism kid. In the world, have a lot of methods to treatment like OT, music therapy, balance. In our center, we also use it, but we include the method like Magostova neurosensory motor integration from US and Vietnam corresponding response therapy. So, what's the meaning of Vietnamese corresponding response therapy? It's our acupressure traditional. So you can imagine very simple. Someone who had like. And I think someone can put oil in hand and massage for the head because of pain. But with our corresponding therapy, we find a different point in the part of our body that we pass and massage, and the head will reduce the pain. So we think that VCRT can combination with OT. Why not? Because VCRT we can make the exercise VCRT and follow the theory of OT. So it's the story of OT. It's the story of VCRT. The man is master recruitment who developed VCRT methods. So you can see the 5 theoretical versions of OT. VCRT can focus in the number 5 theory of function and dysfunction. And on the theory of function and dysfunction, VCRT can focus on the biomechanical framework, focus on musculoskeletal rehabilitation like strength, then motion, endurance to improve the ability to perform the activity. And the third is sensory processing intervention framework. So we can see the learning pyramid, sensory system is very important to the key because it's the foundation for the development of higher level skill like learning, thought, copy, everything right. So visually can achievement in proprioception, tactile, vestibular, interoception, auditory, visual, authority also. It's founded by method from Professor Dr. Cho. Is a method in diagnosing health, correction, and treating disease to the skin by stimulating different point and corresponding area related to affected body part. So CHIT is a second part in system of correspondence for diagram of Vietnamese facial reflexology. So it's very safe method because it's a treatment methods that do not involve the use of medication, acupuncture needle, or medical device. So when the body is affected by illness, it naturally produces internal substance through the endocrine system that functions as medicine to support health, self-healing. Since medicine hit the corresponding point in the body, just like when if we had we should be touched in another point of the body. So finally use the body also like finger, palm, and elbow to as an instrument to treat illness by stimulating different points. I think it's so CHIT has to develop a healthy body with strength and enhance the body with self-healing and self-regulation ability. CHIT can be combined with OT as a foundation therapy for intervention, addressing sensory processing disorder and sensory integration dysfunction in children. You should be know what does it mean of corresponding. I give you the example like the first one. Corresponding is things that have similar property or form are interconnected and respond to one another. So if you want to know CHIT, when the body you get not feeling well, not feel stressed, it should be find a different point, and you should be have a stimulate and different point, and the body will heal itself. So how we find the different point in CHIT? You can use it very simple as this. The first thing is similarity in shape. You can find something same in shape in the body, right? Maybe air, air, hearing. The same shape with the kidney. You know kidney? Yeah. Kidney, the top. So when you have free time, you should be that in air. You can impact for the kidney. It's very good for you, okay? And the second one is similarity in nature. You can know left hand and right hand is the same function. So if you play in the left hand, you can find the different point in the right hand. So first and foremost it's hard for you because you need to swing the Vietnamese language in development by Vietnamese language. I can give you example. You can imagine the same sound, same name. In Vietnamese language, it means he knows, he sống mũi, and the spin is sống lưng, the same sound sống. So when you feel pain in back, you can touch and massage something in the nose. Very good impact. So the last one is the similarity in texture. You can see it hard or soft. Maybe you can imagine here is a head, the same like head. It hard is the same like head, very hard. It's soft, the same like stomach, very soft. So you can tap here. Now you can do it well for the stomach. Okay. Next one. The procedure is simple. We need assessment first. So we make a IEP. So we put in CHIT in our plan. So after 3 months, we have assessment again. It made by the expert in CHIT. So CHIT is very simple. Even it's simple for our center can do. Because you have 1,400 students and 300 teachers, so we need them to know very simple. That's why it expresses the physical stimulation. We use palm and bow and finger to touch them, and we can use the heat stimulation. Let's see. So heat stimulation our children very like this technique because when they come to our center, they automatically write down everything for the therapy to do like it for them. So if they feel really like, because when we do that, we can have tactile sensor attached, and vestibular and proprioception, and it make a good impact for the central nervous system. You can imagine when you need to sleep well, right? You should be put the leg inside the warm water and feel distress. That's why the stimulation is very good for students. And we have the physical stimulation general, so our teacher can learn very easily. They can do it every day in school. It's very safe, don't worry, very safe. So we also have the physical stimulation for advanced, for supporting vestibular, tactile, proprioception, vision, hearing test, like vestibular, like proprioception, and tactile, and like visual, and like hearing disorder. Okay, so this is some our success case, like he got found in cerebral-palsy and also autism. After he can work, so now he can work by himself. Very good, You can see the children have problem with the visor, it's in the eyes. Okay, now it's very good. Now she able to work, able to work. Last time cannot work. Also, you can see his hand. Just a couple of the blood cannot flow. That's why he can have problem like this. So now, it's okay. He can do some final skill. Okay. So it's our method. So thank you for attention.